Captain Ethan Reeves' calloused hands gripped the controls, muscle memory taking over after years of traversing the same routes. The ship's hull creaked and groaned, a constant reminder of its age and the beating it had taken over countless halls. Ethan's eyes, bloodshot from lack of sleep, scanned the instrument panel. The readouts blinked steadily, a monotonous rhythm that matched the dull ache in his temples. He reached for the thermos of synthetic coffee, grimacing as the bitter liquid hit his tongue. Another day in paradise, he muttered to himself, his voice rough from disuse. The calm was shattered by a sudden alarm blaring from the ship's security system. Ethan's heart raced as he pulled up the internal sensors. Something was moving in the cargo hold. "Computer, run a life-form scan," he commanded, already unbuckling his harness and reaching for the blaster he kept under the console. "Life form detected in cargo hold," the A's emotionless voice confirmed. "Species, unknown." Ethan's mind raced. Pirates? Smugglers? He'd heard stories of shape-shifting aliens that could bypass security systems, but he'd always dismissed them as spacer tales. Now, as he made his way cautiously towards the cargo hold, he wasn't so sure. The door to the hold slid open with a hiss. Ethan raised his blaster, ready for anything. What he saw made him freeze in his tracks. Huddled among the crates of medical supplies was a small figure unlike any alien species Ethan had encountered in his travels. Its skin shimmered with an iridescent quality, and large, luminous eyes blinked up at him in fear. "Please," the creature spoke, its voice high and melodious. "Please help me." Ethan lowered his weapon, his mind reeling. What are you?" The alien child, for it was clearly a child, stood on shaky legs. "I am Naya, Princess of Lumina, and I need your help to save my world." Ethan's cynical nature warred with the protective instinct that suddenly welled up within him. He had spent years avoiding entanglements, focusing solely on the next job, the next paycheck. But something about this strange child's plea struck a chord he thought long dead. "Look, kid," Ethan began, trying to keep his voice gruff. "I don't know how you got on my ship, but—" He was cut off by the sound of the ship's comm system crackling to life. "Attention, unidentified vessel. This is the Galactic Patrol Cruiser Enforcer. You are harboring a fugitive. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Naya's eyes widened in terror. "Please," he whispered, "you must hide me. They'll take me back, and then all hope for my people will be lost." Ethan's mind raced, weighing his options. He could hand over the kid, avoid any trouble with the Galactic Patrol. It was the smart play, the safe play. But as he looked into Naya's pleading eyes, he knew he couldn't do it. "Damn it," he muttered, holstering his blaster. "All right, kid, get in the smuggler's hold, and don't make a sound." As Naya scrambled into the hidden compartment, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to get a whole lot more complicated. He made his way back to the cockpit, his heart pounding as he opened a channel to the approaching patrol ship. "Galactic Patrol Vessel, this is Captain Ethan Reeves of the cargo hauler Stargazer. There must be some mistake. I'm just running medical supplies to the Outer Rim colonies." There was a pause, then a gruff voice responded. "Prepare to be boarded, Stargazer. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." As Ethan watched the patrol ship grow larger in his view screen, he knew he had crossed a line. He was no longer just a simple cargo hauler. He was now a fugitive, harboring a mysterious alien princess. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a voice whispered that this might be the most important thing he'd ever done. As the Galactic Patrol ship docked with the Stargazer, Ethan's mind raced through possible scenarios. He'd dealt with inspections before, but never with an alien stowaway hidden in his smuggler's hold. The airlock hissed open, and two stern-faced officers stepped aboard. Captain Reeves, the lead officer, a tall Andorian with ice-blue skin, addressed him. "I am Lieutenant Fax. We have reason to believe you're harboring a fugitive from the Lumina system." Ethan forced a confused expression. "A fugitive? Look, I'm just a simple cargo hauler. Check my manifest. Medical supplies for the Outer Rim." Fax's antennae twitched skeptically. "We'll be the judge of that. Search the ship," he ordered his subordinate. For the next hour, Ethan's heart pounded as the officers combed through every inch of the Stargazer. When they finally left, empty-handed and frustrated, he let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Once the patrol ship was safely out of sensor range, Ethan rushed to the smuggler's hold. "All right, kid, coast is clear." Naya emerged, her iridescent skin pale with fear. "Thank you," she whispered. I thought they'd find me for sure." Ethan's gruff exterior softened slightly. "Yeah, well, don't thank me yet. You've got some explaining to do. What's this about saving your world?" As they made their way to the small galley, Naya's luminous eyes filled with tears. "My home, Lumina, is dying. Our people have always relied on a unique mental connection with our rulers to thrive. But my mother, Queen Vestra, something's wrong with her. She's draining the life force from our planet, from our people." Ethan frowned, trying to wrap his head around the concept. "And you think I can help? I'm just a cargo hauler, kid, not exactly qualified for saving planets." "But you are," Naya insisted, her skin shimmering with emotion. "Our connection allows us to share knowledge, skills. If you agree to be my father, in our way, we could combine our strengths. We could save my world." Ethan's instincts screamed at him to refuse, to drop the kid off at the nearest safe port and forget this whole mess. But something in Naya's desperate plea struck a chord he thought long dead. "Ah, hell," he muttered. "I'm probably going to regret this, but all right, I'll help you. But we do this my way, got it?" Naya's face lit up with hope. "Thank you, Ethan. You won't regret this, I promise." Over the next few days, as the Stargazer cruised through hyperspace towards the Lumina system, Ethan and Naya fell into an uneasy routine. The human taught the young alien the ins and outs of the ship, showing her how to navigate its quirks and temperamental systems. In return, Naya shared stories of her homeworld, painting vivid pictures of Lumina's once thriving cities and lush landscapes. One evening, as they shared a meal of reconstituted protein packs, Naya broached the subject they'd been dancing around. "Ethan," she said hesitantly, "I think it's time we try to establish the mental link. It's the only way we'll truly be able to help each other." Ethan's hand froze halfway to his mouth. The idea of letting someone into his head, of sharing his thoughts and memories, terrified him more than any firefight he'd ever been in. "I don't know, kid. That's a pretty big step. How do I know this won't fry my brain or something?" Naya's expression turned serious. "I would never harm you, Ethan. This connection, it's sacred to my people. It's built on trust and mutual respect." Ethan studied her face, searching for any sign of deception. Finding none, he sighed heavily. "All right, what do I need to do?" Naya's instructions were simple. They sat cross-legged on the floor of the Stargazer's small living quarters, facing each other. Ethan closed his eyes, trying to clear his mind as Naya had explained. At first, nothing happened. Then, like a dam breaking, Ethan felt a rush of foreign thoughts and emotions flood his consciousness. He gasped, overwhelmed by the intensity of the connection. Images flashed through his mind. A world of crystal spires and shimmering forests, a people connected by an intricate web of thought and feeling. But underlying it all was a creeping darkness, a malevolent force that twisted and corrupted everything it touched. As suddenly as it began, the connection faded. Ethan opened his eyes, finding Naya staring at him with a mix of concern and excitement. "Did you see?" she asked breathlessly. "Did you feel it?" Ethan nodded, still reeling from the experience. "Yeah, kid, I saw it. But there was something else too, something wrong." Naya's face fell. "The darkness. You sensed it, didn't you?" "That's what's controlling my mother, draining our world." As they discussed what Ethan had seen, a realization struck him. "Wait a minute. If I could see all that, what do you see in my head?" Naya's expression softened. "I saw a man who's been alone for too long, who's been hurt, but still has a good heart. I saw I saw someone who could be a true father to me. Ethan felt a lump form in his throat, emotions he'd long suppressed threatening to surface. He cleared his throat gruffly. Yeah, well, don't get too attached, kid. We've still got a job to do. As the stargazer hurtled through hyperspace towards an uncertain destiny, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that his life had irrevocably changed. For better or worse, he was now bound to this alien child and her desperate mission to save her world. And deep down, in a part of himself he thought long dead, he found he didn't mind the change as much as he thought he would. The days stretched into weeks as the stargazer pushed deeper into uncharted space. Ethan and Naya honed their mental connection, learning to share knowledge and skills with increasing ease. The human found himself absorbing complex theories of Luminan technology, while Naya picked up the finer points of ship maintenance and evasive maneuvers. Their journey took them to the fringes of known space, seeking information on the mysterious force controlling Queen Vestra. At a seedy spaceport on the edge of the Outer Rim, they encountered their first real lead. The bar was dimly lit, filled with the low murmur of a dozen different alien languages. Ethan kept a protective hand on Naya's shoulder as they approached the bartender, a grizzled Sarthian with too many eyes and not enough patience. We're looking for information, Ethan said, sliding a credit chit across the sticky bar top. About Lumina, and something that might be influencing its rulers. The Xarthian's eyes narrowed, all 8 of them focusing on Ethan with unsettling intensity. Dangerous questions, friend. Might get you killed asking about such things. Ethan leaned in, his voice low and dangerous. Might get you killed not answering them. Your choice. For a tense moment, Ethan thought he'd miscalculated. Then the Xarthian chuckled, a raspy sound like gravel in a blender. You've got guts, I'll give you that. All right, here's what I know. There's talk of an ancient artifact, something called the Mind's Eye. Said to have the power to control thoughts, bend wills. Last I heard, it was in the possession of a collector on Nexus Station. Ethan committed the information to memory, thanking the bartender with a nod. As they turned to leave, a commotion at the bar's entrance caught his attention. His blood ran cold as he recognized the uniforms of Galactic Patrol officers. Time to go, kid, he muttered, guiding Naya towards the back exit. They slipped out into the neon-lit alleyway just as shouts erupted from inside the bar. Their mad dash back to the stargazer was a blur of twisting alleys and near misses. Ethan's lungs burned as they finally reached the ship, the sound of pursuit growing closer. Get us out of here, Ethan shouted as they barreled up the gangway. Naya was already at the controls, her small hands flying over the panels with a skill that would have impressed Ethan if he weren't so focused on not getting shot. The stargazer's engines rolled to life just as blaster fire peppered its hull. Ethan strapped himself into the co-pilot's seat, taking over weapons control while Naya piloted. Hang on, Naya warned, her voice steady despite the chaos. This might get rough. The ship lurched as it broke atmosphere, alarms blaring as they pushed it beyond safe acceleration. Ethan returned fire, managing to damage one of their pursuers before they cleared the planet's gravity well. Plot a course for Nexus Station, Ethan instructed, keeping an eye on their rear scanners. And let's hope this Mind's Eye is worth all this trouble. As the stars stretched into streaks of light around them, Ethan allowed himself a moment of reflection. He'd gone from solitary cargo holder to fugitive and alien princess's protector, all in the span of a few weeks. And strangely enough, he found he didn't mind the change as much as he thought he would. Their arrival at Nexus Station was met with little fanfare, the bustling spaceport too preoccupied with its own affairs to notice another battered freighter. Ethan and Naya spent days gathering intelligence, piecing together the location of the reclusive collector who supposedly possessed the Mind's Eye. It was Naya who finally made the breakthrough, her keen mind putting together clues that Ethan had overlooked. The collector, she explained excitedly, he's not on the station at all. He's on a private asteroid base nearby. Ethan studied the coordinates Naya had uncovered, a plan already forming in his mind. Good work, kid. Now comes the hard part. We need to figure out how to get on that base without getting ourselves killed or arrested. Their opportunity came in the form of a supply ship scheduled to make a routine delivery to the collector's base. Using skills Ethan wasn't entirely proud of, they managed to slice into the ship's manifest, adding themselves as last-minute crew members. As they approached the asteroid base, its sleek, predatory design becoming visible through the viewport, Ethan felt a knot of tension form in his stomach. This was it, their chance to find the artifact that could save Lumina. "Remember the plan," he murmured to Naya as they prepared to board. "We get in, find the mind's eye, and get out. No heroics, no unnecessary risks." Naya nodded sullenly, her young face set with determination. "I understand, Ethan, and thank you for everything." Ethan felt a surge of affection for the alien child who had become so much more than just a passenger. He ruffled her hair gently, a gesture that had become familiar over their weeks together. "Don't thank me yet, kid. We've still got a job to do." The airlock cycled open with a hiss, admitting them to the opulent interior of the collector's base. Ethan's eyes darted from side to side, taking in the displays of priceless artifacts and exotic creatures. Somewhere in this maze of wealth and excess, the key to saving Lumina waited. As they moved deeper into the base, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. His instincts, honed by years in the void, screamed danger. Those instincts proved correct when alarms suddenly blared throughout the base. Armed guards poured into the corridor, cutting off their escape. Well, a silky voice purred from behind them. "What have we here? A thief and a runaway princess. How quaint." Ethan and Naya turned slowly, coming face to face with the base's owner. The collector was a tall, elegantly dressed being of indeterminate species, his eyes gleaming with cruel intelligence. "I'm afraid," the collector continued, "that your little adventure ends here. But don't worry, I'm sure I can find a use for both of you in my collection." Ethan's hand inched towards his concealed blaster, his mind racing for a way out of this mess. He caught Naya's eye, saw the fear there, but also the trust. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. "Sorry, pal," Ethan growled, his fingers closing around the weapon, "but we're not for sale." In that moment, as guards closed in and the collector's laughter echoed through the base, Ethan knew their quest to save Lumina had just become infinitely more complicated. Ethan's fingers tightened around his blaster, his eyes darting between the guards closing in and the smug collector. The odds were impossible, but he'd be damned if he'd go down without a fight. Just as he was about to make his move, the base shuddered violently. Alarms blared, different from the intruder alert. The collector's smile faltered. "What's happening?" he demanded. A guard's voice crackled over the comm. "Sir, we're under attack. Multiple ships have just dropped out of hyperspace." In that moment of confusion, Ethan acted. He grabbed Naya and dove behind a nearby display case, blaster fire erupting around them. The princess yelped in surprise, but quickly regained her composure. "Ethan," she whispered urgently, "I can sense them. They're from Lumina." Before Ethan could process this information, the far wall of the corridor exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris stepped a group of beings that could only be Naya's people, their iridescent skin shimmering with barely contained energy. "Princess Naya," the leader called out, her voice melodious even in the chaos. "We've come to bring you home." Ethan's mind reeled. How had they found them? As if reading his thoughts, Naya squeezed his hand. "The mental link," she explained. "They must have traced it." The next few minutes were a blur of motion and sound. Ethan and Naya fought their way to the Luminan rescue team, covering each other with a synchronicity born of their mental connection. The collector's guards, caught between two forces, quickly fell. As they raced towards the Luminan ship, Ethan remembered their mission. "Wait," he shouted over the din of battle. "The mind's eye. We can't leave without it." The Luminan leader hesitated, then nodded quickly. "We'll hold them off. Go." Ethan and Naya sprinted back into the depths of the base, following the mental map they'd pieced together during their infiltration. They found the artifact chamber easily enough, but the sight that greeted them made Ethan's blood run cold. The collector stood before a pedestal, the mind's eye, a swirling orb of energy, clutched in his hands. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light. "You want this?" he sneered, his voice distorted. "Come and take it." What followed was the most brutal fight of Ethan's life. The collector, empowered by the mind's eye, moved with inhuman speed and strength. Ethan found himself relying more and more on his connection with Naya, anticipating attacks and coordinating their movements. In a desperate gambit, Ethan feinted left while Naya dove right. The collector, momentarily confused by their mental link, hesitated. It was all the opening Ethan needed. He tackled the being, sending them both crashing to the floor. The mind's eye rolled free. "Now, Naya," Ethan shouted. The princess scooped up the artifact, its energy pulsing in response to her touch. The collector howled in rage, but it was too late. They were already running, the sounds of pursuit fading behind them. They barely made it to the Luminan ship, the base's defenses coming back online as they cleared the docking bay. As the stars stretched into streaks of light around them, Ethan allowed himself a moment to breathe. They had done it. They had the mind's eye. The journey to Lumina was tense, filled with hurried planning and preparation. Ethan marveled at the Luminan ship, its organic technology far beyond anything he'd encountered, but his wonder was tempered by the knowledge of what awaited them. As they approached Lumina, Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The planet was a world in agony. Great swaths of the surface were barren, the once lush forests reduced to ash, and at the center of it all, a massive crystalline structure pulsed with malevolent energy. "The palace," Naya whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "My mother." Their plan was risky, relying on split-second timing and the element of surprise. Ethan would use the skills he gained through his link with Naya to infiltrate the palace, while she and the rescue team created a diversion. As Ethan made his way through the twisting corridors of the palace, he couldn't shake a sense of déjà vu. The mental link with Naya had given him more than just knowledge. It had given him memories. He knew this place, knew its secrets. He reached the throne room just as alarms began to blare throughout the palace. The diversionary attack had begun. Taking a deep breath, Ethan stepped into the cavernous chamber. The sight that greeted him would haunt him for years to come. Queen Vestra, once a being of grace and wisdom, had been twisted into something monstrous. Tendrils of dark energy writhed around her, pulsing in time with the planet's dying heartbeat. So, the Queen's voice rasped, echoing unnaturally. "The thief returns. Have you come to steal my daughter's birthright as well?" Ethan steeled himself, drawing on every ounce of courage and determination he gained on this journey. "No," he said firmly, "I've come to give it back." With that, he activated the mind's eye. The artifact pulsed with energy, pushing back against the darkness surrounding the Queen. Ethan gritted his teeth, feeling as if his very soul was being torn apart. Through their mental link, he felt Naya join the battle. Her presence gave him strength, allowed him to push harder against the malevolent force controlling the Queen. For what felt like an eternity, they struggled. Ethan's vision blurred, his body screaming in protest. Just when he thought he couldn't hold on any longer, something shifted. The darkness surrounding Queen Vestra shattered like glass, dissipating into nothingness. The Queen collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. Ethan rushed to her side, cradling her head gently. As the malevolent energy faded, he got his first true look at Queen Vestra. Even in her weakened state, her beauty took his breath away. Her iridescent skin shimmered with renewed life, and her eyes, now clear of the dark influence, regarded him with a mixture of confusion and wonder. Who are you?" she whispered, her voice hoarse but melodious. Before Ethan could respond, Naya burst into the throne room. "Mother," she cried, rushing to embrace the Queen. As Ethan watched the reunion, a wave of exhaustion washed over him. He had done it. They had saved the Queen, and with her, the entire planet of Lumina. But as he looked at Naya and Queen Vestra, a bittersweet realization settled over him. His part in this story was coming to an end. He had helped save a world, found a family he never knew he needed, only to lose them now that his task was complete. Little did Ethan know, his adventure on Lumina was far from over. The greatest challenge and the greatest reward still lay ahead. In the days that followed, Lumina began to heal. The corrupting influence that had turned vast swaths of the planet into barren wasteland receded, replaced by new growth and vibrant life. Ethan found himself working alongside Queen Vestra and Naya, using his practical knowledge to complement their innate connection to the planet. As they worked together, Ethan discovered a side of Queen Vestra he hadn't expected. She was kind, intelligent, and possessed a wry sense of humor that caught him off guard. He found himself looking forward to their conversations, to the way her eyes lit up when she laughed. For her part, Queen Vestra seemed equally intrigued by Ethan. She questioned him endlessly about his travels, his life before coming to Lumina. In quiet moments, when the weight of rebuilding a world wasn't pressing down on them, Ethan caught her watching him with an expression that made his heart race. One evening, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the rejuvenating landscape, Queen Vestra turned to Ethan, her expression serious. "Ethan," she said softly, "I can never thank you enough for what you've done for our world. For me." Ethan felt a blush creep up his neck. "I just did what anyone would do," he mumbled, unaccustomed to such sincere gratitude. Vestra shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. "No, Ethan, what you did was extraordinary. You risked everything for people you barely knew, for a world that wasn't your own." She paused, her gaze intensifying. "Why?" Ethan found himself lost in her eyes, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. "Because it was the right thing to do. Because Naya believed in me. And because I couldn't bear the thought of a universe without you in it." The admission hung in the air between them, charged with unspoken emotions. Then, with a grace that took Ethan's breath away, Vestra closed the distance between them. Their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home, like the final piece of a puzzle falling into place. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, Vestra rested her forehead against Ethan's. "Stay," she whispered. "Stay with us. With me." Ethan's response was another kiss, pouring all his feelings into the gesture. He had found his home, his family, his love, and he wasn't going anywhere. But their moment of happiness was short-lived. A piercing alarm shattered the peace, followed by the sound of explosions in the distance. Ethan and Vestra rushed to the command center, where Naya and other Luminan officials were gathered around a holographic display. "What's happening?" Vestra demanded, slipping back into her role as queen. A grim-faced official turned to them. "We're under attack, Your Majesty. It's the Galactic Patrol." Ethan's blood ran cold. He had almost forgotten about the patrol's pursuit, so caught up in the joy of saving Lumina and finding love. Now it seemed his past had caught up with him. "They're demanding we hand over the fugitive and the stolen artifact," the official continued. "They're threatening full-scale invasion if we don't comply." Vestra's eyes flashed with anger. "We will do no such thing. Ethan is a hero to our people, and the mind's eye belongs to Lumina." Ethan's heart swelled at her defense, but guilt gnawed at him. "This is my fault," he said. "I brought this trouble to your doorstep. Maybe if I turn myself in." "No!" Both Vestra and Naya shouted in unison. Naya stepped forward, her young face set with determination. "We fight. Together, as a family." Ethan looked between Vestra and Naya, seeing the resolve in their eyes. He nodded, a plan already forming in his mind. "All right, but we do this smart. We can't match their firepower, but we have something they don't." "The mind's eye," Vestra breathed, understanding dawning on her face. Ethan grinned. "Exactly. And a mental link that spans an entire planet. They won't know what hit them." What followed was the most extraordinary battle Ethan had ever been part of. Using the mind's eye to amplify their mental connection, the Luminans coordinated their defense with unprecedented precision. Ethan's tactical knowledge, shared across the link, allowed them to outmaneuver the technologically superior patrol forces at every turn. Ships piloted by mentally linked crews danced through space, evading fire and striking with pinpoint accuracy. On the ground, Luminan defenders moved as one, their iridescent skin pulsing with shared purpose. At the heart of it all stood Ethan, Vestra, and Naya, their minds joined in perfect harmony. Through their connection, Ethan felt the determination of an entire people, their love for their world and each other. It was overwhelming, beautiful, and utterly humbling. As the battle reached its climax, with the patrol forces in disarray, a transmission came through from the enemy flagship. The face that appeared on the screen made Ethan's jaw drop. "Hello, brother," the man said, a cruel smile twisting his familiar features. "It's been a long time." Ethan stared in disbelief at the image of his estranged brother, now apparently a high-ranking galactic patrol officer. "Marcus? What? How?" Marcus's smile widened. "Did you really think you could escape your past, Ethan? That you could play hero on some backwater world and all would be forgiven? It's time to come home and face the music." Ethan felt Vestra and Naya's concern through their link, saw the questions in their eyes. He realized with a start that there was so much of his past he hadn't shared, so many wounds he kept hidden. But as he looked at the family he'd found, at the world he'd helped save, Ethan knew what he had to do. He straightened his shoulders, meeting his brother's gaze with newfound resolve. "You're right, Marcus. It is time to face the music, but not in the way you think." With that, Ethan opened his mind fully to the link, letting Vestra, Naya, and all of Lumina see the truth of his past. The pain, the mistakes, but also the growth and the love that had brought him to this moment. As understanding and acceptance flowed through the link, Ethan turned back to the screen. "I'm not running anymore, Marcus. I'm standing my ground. With my family, with my people. So you have a choice to make. Are you here as my brother or as my enemy?" The silence that followed seemed to stretch for an eternity. Then, slowly, the anger faded from Marcus's face, replaced by something that looked almost like admiration. "Well, little brother," he said softly, "it seems you finally found something worth fighting for." As the galactic patrol ships began to withdraw, Ethan felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He had faced his past, embraced his present, and now, surrounded by the love of his new family and an entire world, he was ready to step into whatever future awaited them. The battle was over, but for Ethan, Vestra, Naya, and all of Lumina, a new chapter was just beginning. The months following the Galactic Patrol's retreat were a whirlwind of activity on Lumina. The planet continued its miraculous recovery, with barren lands bursting into vibrant life seemingly overnight. Ethan found himself at the center of it all, working alongside Queen Vestra and Princess Naya to rebuild and reshape their world. As the bond between Ethan, Vestra, and Naya deepened, the young princess began to call Ethan Dad, a term that filled him with a warmth he'd never known he was missing. The people of Lumina, witnessing the transformation of their world and learning of Ethan's role in their salvation, began to view him as a hero. Whispers spread through the rejuvenated cities and flourishing countryside, whispers of making Ethan their king. When the proposal was formally presented to him, Ethan was stunned. "Me? A king?" He sputtered, looking to Vestra for support. "I'm just a former space trucker. I don't know the first thing about ruling a planet." Vestra took his hand, her touch calming his racing thoughts. "You know more than you think, Ethan. You've shown wisdom, courage, and compassion. Those are the qualities of a true leader." Naya nodded eagerly. "Please say yes, Dad. You've already saved our world once. Think of how much more good you could do as king." Ethan looked between them, seeing the love and trust in their eyes. He thought of how far he'd come, from a lonely cargo hauler running from his past to a man with a family and a purpose. Slowly he nodded. "All right," he said, his voice thick with emotion. I'll do it. For Lumina. For both of you. The coronation was a spectacle unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. The capital city was transformed into a sea of iridescent light, with luminans from all corners of the planet gathered to witness the event. As Ethan stood before the assembled crowd, Vestra by his side and Naya beaming up at him, he felt a sense of belonging he'd never experienced before. As the crown was placed upon his head, Ethan felt the familiar warmth of the mental link wash over him. But this time, it wasn't just Vestra and Naya he sensed. The minds of all Lumina touched his, a chorus of joy and hope that nearly brought him to his knees. In that moment, Ethan understood the true power of the connection he shared with this world. It wasn't just about ruling or leading. It was about being part of something greater than himself, about using his strength to lift others up. The years that followed were not without their challenges. Rebuilding a world was no easy task, and there were times when Ethan doubted himself, when the weight of his responsibilities seemed too much to bear. But in those moments, he had Vestra's unwavering support, Naya's boundless optimism, and the love of an entire planet to lift him up. Under their joint rule, Lumina flourished. The mental link that connected the planet's inhabitants, once nearly destroyed by corruption, now became a source of unprecedented innovation and harmony. Ethan's experiences as a space traveler brought new perspectives and technologies, helping Lumina take its place as a respected member of the galactic community. Even Marcus, Ethan's once estranged brother, became a frequent visitor to Lumina. The brothers slowly rebuilt their relationship, with Marcus eventually becoming an ambassador between Lumina and the Galactic Patrol, helping to forge new alliances and understandings. On a warm evening, years after his coronation, Ethan stood on the same balcony where he and Vestra had shared their first kiss. The city below glowed with life, a testament to how far they'd come. Vestra joined him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, resting her head on his shoulder. Ethan smiled, pulling her closer. "Just all of this. How different my life is now compared to when I first found a stowaway princess in my cargo hold. If someone had told me then that I'd end up here, as a king, with a family and a whole world to call home, I'd have thought they were crazy." Vestra laughed softly. "And now?" "Now." Ethan turned to face her, cupping her face gently. "Now I can't imagine being anywhere else. This is where I belong. With you, with Naya, with all of Lumina." As if on cue, Naya's voice called out from inside. "Mom, Dad, come quick. I think I figured out how to extend our mental link across interstellar distances." Ethan and Vestra shared a look of amused exasperation and pride. Their daughter, now a young woman, had inherited both Ethan's adventurous spirit and Vestra's connection to the mind's eye. Her innovations continued to push the boundaries of what they thought possible. As they went to join Naya, Ethan felt a profound sense of contentment wash over him. He had found more than just a new home or a new role. He had found his true self, surrounded by the love of his family and the trust of an entire world. The little alien princess who had begged him to be her father had given Ethan far more than he could have ever imagined. She had given him a purpose, a family, and a future brighter than all the stars he'd once traveled among. As king of Lumina, husband to Vestra, and father to Naya, Ethan knew that his greatest adventures were still to come, and he couldn't wait to face them, hand in hand with the family and the world he loved. The end of one story had become the beginning of a greater one, and on Lumina, bathed in the glow of iridescent light and boundless possibility, that story was just beginning to unfold.